All right, everyone, we are back. Welcome to the Talent Show, where you will meet the people that power TTEC. I'm Rebecca, and I will be your host for today's episode. Can you believe it? We are kicking off our fifth season of the Talent Show, and we are so excited that you are joining us. Welcome back. If you've been a part of our show before, we're glad that you're here. We know that you all have so many ways that you could be spending your time. So thanks for dropping by to learn a little bit more about TTEC, and we hope to give you some great advice that you can take forward in your career. So I hope everyone's having a great start to 2024. We're nearing the end of January, which may mean that we've abandoned our New Year's resolutions, or maybe we're keeping them alive with some CPR. Wherever you are in that journey, we're glad that you're here for today's show because our guest, TTEC's Chief People Officer, Laura Butler, is here to share some great advice that I 10 out of 10 recommend you stay till the end as we focus on your wellness journey ahead. But before we get there, we want to make sure that we meet you. You're a big reason that we're here. And so please do drop in the chat where you're joining us from today. We look forward to welcoming you and have you also share and meet people all around the world. Hello, Susan. Oh, hey, thanks for joining us. We're glad you're here for the first time. We do this every other week, so we hope that you'll be joining us back in February again. So yes, please do. Don't be shy. Drop where you are from, and we'll be sure to meet you along the way. Hey, Helen, we love the Talent Show too. And we also love the Talking Off the Clock podcast. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more later today. Hello, Jerome from Brazil. We're so glad that you're joining us. Dora in from Athens, Greece. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So we've got a great show for you today. Laura will be sharing more digestible, consumable, actionable advice to support you in your wellness journey. So if you're looking to thrive in 2024, you've dropped in on the right conversation today. By the end of this, you will be able to craft a holistic plan and a wellness journey to take you through the year's end. So let's talk a little bit about today's guest. Laura Butler has returned to TTEC. Yes, she is an alumni as our Chief People Officer, and she loves to unlock the talent and the potential of our global team and make a difference in our communities. We'll have her share more about her in a second with you. And I do just want to drop a little plug in. She is also a graduate and alumni of CU Boulder, the University of Colorado. I am too, so go Buffs. Had to get that in there. But let's bring on Laura and have her share more about her. Hi, Laura.
Hi, great to see you.
Welcome to today's show. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Really excited to be here and have this conversation. As you mentioned, I'm a boomerang to TTEC, and I have to say my first tour of duty at TTEC was the adventure of a lifetime with working with such a fast-paced, high-energy company and with the most valuable assets that a company can have, employees as well as customers. So I'm really, really thrilled to be back.
Well, we are so excited to have you. As we said at the top of the show, this is the sneak peek at the people that power TTEC, and there's probably no better guest than the Chief People Officer who you help support our people and culture every day around the world. So we're glad that you're here. And hey, I love your bookcase behind you. You like to read, I take it.
I love it. Absolutely. I have two Kindles on my desk too, even. So digital, written in any format.
Well, feel free to share any books that you love throughout our conversation today. This audience craves growth and personal development tools. So anything that you want to add to their toolkit would be fantastic. So before we jump in, I love that when we were talking a little bit about today's show, that you wanted to take the conversation beyond personal development, how to grow your career, and really look holistically at our wellness journey. And so before we go a little further into the great slide that you're going to be sharing with us, would you start with, why did you want to focus on that? What is the importance of beginning everything kind of with that wellness journey in mind?
Well, I think, on a personal level, when you start talking about things that are important to you externally, then they come to life for you as well. So I wanted to talk about a topic that I'm also really working on and trying to get better at and more well-rounded for wellness. And, there's no better time to have a topic like this than January, when you're kicking everything off for the year and making plans to make it 2024 the best year yet.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think I have some accountability buddies in my life too. So like you're saying, when you say it out loud, there's some people listening to it on this live, that it helps to make it actionable and become more real, which is really, really great.
It's
So
one of those things that when you think about, why do resolutions not work? A lot of the time we're not sharing them with people enough, because people are really helpful. I once went to go do a half marathon, and it was amazing. The people that I told started holding me accountable and asking me about it. And I think I would have given up if I hadn't had so much support. So I do agree, talking to people and sharing is absolutely critical. And doing that helps you have your New Year's intentions last the whole year.
yeah, and you probably had some people cheering you on at the end too of your marathon, which was probably fantastic as well. So, yeah, definitely sharing with people, and I think it also helps inspire other people as well. So it's igniting your flame and helping to share that out with other people as well. So let's jump into that slide. Would you walk through with us a little bit more about this wheel of life assessment and how we can all apply it as we CPR resuscitate our New Year's goals here today?
Well, the way I came across this wheel of life assessment, actually, Grace Killalea, who is the author of a great book called The Confidence Effect, had introduced this in a session I was in with her. And what I really appreciated about this wheel of life is that sometimes we think about wellness as only physical, and there are many dimensions to having a healthy life. And so as you look at across this wheel, the methodology is that you rate where you're at on a scale of 1 to 10. And by the way, those scales are very personal to you. What might be a 10 to you might be a 2 to somebody else, and vice versa. So this is personal to you on the rating scale. But once you complete that, where are you at with career and work, from a satisfaction perspective, from a fulfillment perspective, engagement? Where are you on your personal development journey? Are you learning things and growing in ways that you're trying to contributing to the community, that sort of thing, which is incredibly helpful. When you look at your relationships, the quality of your relationships, the frequency of your relationships. And I think that can get harder too, as you accumulate more and more relationships, trying to figure out how to rebalance different relationships. Are you showing up in the way that you want to show up in those relationships? The spirituality and mindfulness practices as well. How are you assessing that spoke in your life on a scale of 1 to 10? And then you look at the home and environment, your recreation and fun. Life is to be enjoyed. So do you have those vacations planned? Are you getting together with friends? Some of these things can help with other spokes. Looking also at your overall health and wellness. Of course, that's incredibly critical. And then finances. And a couple of the spokes maybe we'll double click into a little bit more around some of the health and wellness and also the financial health. I know for myself, I end up personally, if I look at my level of effort against outcome in each of these areas, much more imbalanced sometimes than I would like. So doing this exercise helps you look and then say, gosh, that looks a lot like my calendar. So maybe I need to change my calendar to mirror more what my intention is across these different spokes. So if I look and I have very little time for health and wellness, well, if I look at my calendar, it would tell me that. So what might I do a trade-off where I'm actually exceeding or doing just fine? Can I dampen that down in order to spend more time in that area and engaging in some physical fitness. So looking across this wheel is a helpful way to take stock and to take inventory on how things are going.
Laura, I love it, and I love that you said it's super personal, to each person, and that your it might not everything has to be a 10 out of 10.
I think that if you were a 10 out of 10, you scored across the board, then you should go buy a lotto ticket or something. That's pretty lucky. I find that, and also that may not be the goal. You may be okay with that too. And accepting that and just meeting yourself where you're at and being kind to yourself and say, actually, I'm a 3 and I am good with that. That's actually fine. I don't want to put more investment there. And then the guilt of, I should be doing this and I should be doing that start to dissipate, because you're just acknowledging where you're at and you're accepting yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially as we look at, I don't know if you know this, but there's actually a Ditch New Year's Resolutions Day and a Quitters Day. And I think some of those things don't allow for that grace, like you're
Mhm.
sharing, Laura, to say, you know what, this is not now, not this time. Maybe eventually that spoke will, rise in importance.
Well,
And
there was a book that really meant a lot to me, and anyone who knows me has seen me recommended a million times, which is Never Check Email in the Morning by Julie Morgenstern. And what I love about one of the concepts in her book, she's got all these great takeaway concepts, but one was this idea of a min, mid, and max. And sometimes we look and we do say we need to be a 10 at all of these things. I'm sure we've got a variety of perfectionists that are on this call saying, I need this to be a 10. And that carries so much weight. And it becomes overwhelming and it becomes a ditched resolution, a failed intention, and just adds to that burden that we carry with us. What I like about Julie's min, mid, max is, say 10 is the max, but think about the min. What's the littlest thing you can do? So recently, I felt like I needed to get more physical exercise, and I honestly didn't want to. And so I thought, what if I just did 5 minutes of my Peloton app, like anything that's 5 minutes? Let me commit to 5 minutes in a day. That's how long it takes to make a coffee. Can I do that? And just that is literally, I think that might be the minimum outside of getting out of bed. And I started at 5 minutes, and by the end of the week, just the end of the week, I was up to 30 because that 5 minutes turned into 10, turned into 15. And it was natural, and it was okay if I had just stayed at 5 minutes. I was making movement. And when my head hit the pillow at night, I felt like I had made progress. And that's true with career or any other areas. What's the minimum you can do to get movement in that direction? Every big journey starts with one step. What's the one step you can take versus trying to conquer the entire thing quickly?
yeah, I love that. It creates momentum.
Mhm.
Or like you said, just doing 5 minutes. That was more
And that can
momentum.
be that's like these little tiny changes, but they add up and they do start to create more space than you thought was available.
Yeah, that's great. And as I look at it too, like starting with wellness, I love the old adage of put your own oxygen mask on first, which I realize is really hard in a world where there's so much going on. But if you don't put your own oxygen mask on first, like how much help are you going to be to the others around you, as well? So I love just to take a little bit into like the calendar piece. Like they
Mhm.
always say, what gets scheduled gets done. Have you found that to be helpful for you on your wellness journey?
I really have. I think calendar management, I was actually talking to a leader the other day who said, I just ask candidates to show me their calendar because it gives me an idea of what it is that's important to them to have walk through. What does a week in your life look like? And it's, that's kind of an intimidating question. But I thought, it's interesting. I do think your calendar reflects a lot of things. And I would also say that I know for me, I would push back things that in lieu of one of those pillars that I was like, gosh, I've really got to hit the gas on career and development, et cetera. I've been the primary breadwinner, and that, all of the things that come with that. I felt like, gosh, I really need to invest. frankly the expense of everything else. And so my calendar, in looking at that, but you kind of make excuses and rationalize it's okay, but because of dot dot dot. But what I also realized is you have to pay attention to your reward and recognition. So there's a lot of reward and recognition you get very tangibly at work. You either get promoted or more assignments or new team members or so many things. But in other aspects of your life, it can feel like it takes longer. And sometimes the results are harder to see, like on health and calmness and being present and all of that. Those are very long builds. And it's important to create reward systems for those things too, so that they can fit into your calendar. Because sometimes the calendar can become an excuse to say, well, I just literally, look, I don't have any time. Absolutely. I know I will never have extra time in my calendar because I love packing my calendar. So I can make a lot of excuses for why I don't do things. But at the end of the day, it's about, am I not clear on why that's important to me? Do I need to rotate more on the reward side to ensure that those investments that are much longer term investments pay off? And you see this with people who might be going through an MBA program or something like that. That's a long-term investment that has daily rigor in how you get there. And many people stop their programs, unfortunately, I think because that wheel becomes unbalanced.
Yeah, I think that as I love Pilates, and I have a trainer who's holding me accountable to going to those. But it's because when I'm 80, 90, I want to have the mobility in the future. So it is hard, like you're saying, Laura, to see the kind of the forest through the trees when it's the longer play. But to give yourself those bite-sized rewards and recognition along the way is really great. I do just want to jump over to our chat real quick and say hello to Rebecca Sanchez from Houston. Hi, Marvin from the Philippines. Shout out to Steve from Phoenix, Arizona, my hometown as well. Hello, Liana from Armenia. I think this might be one of the first times we've had a guest from there. And so much missed listening to you, Laura. So she's happy to be a part of it today. And Sarah did mention the color coding too. I don't know, Laura, if you want to get into that right now, or if we should jump over to a financial wellness, but I know the color coding is also something you talk with our team about quite a bit too.
Well, the color coding of my books in the back are, if that's might be what people are mentioning. My niece actually works for a bookstore and came over and started this process, which now everything else feels like it needs to follow. So I have this patch of super organized color code, but it doesn't actually have a meaning other than the colors. It's very aesthetically delightful though. So I feel like, nothing really new to add there. There are a couple of things I know before we kind of click into. We've got a lot of people with jobs and different things. I thought I would share some of the things that are being done to really help, that you can all be the spark of. These are really easy things to do, kind of like an employee resource group to create kind of a wellness club, as it were. And from a physical perspective, do things like, gamifying your walking club or desk yoga and mini workouts. There's a lot of great desk yoga on YouTube. Doing a community garden if you're physically more together, or even a virtual community garden. Doing meditation Mondays, getting people together from a mindless kind of view of things, having meetings while you're walking outside. And I know we'll double click into the financial, but I just wanted to mention that this community can take action in no cost ways to really help build a very well and energetic community together.
I
Work
think
or otherwise.
I might steal your community virtual gardening with my team. Jen Nelson on my team, she loves plants and some other team members along the way. So we might implement that virtual garden, Laura, and bring some more of nature into our work life too, which is always great. And oh, on that note too, much of that wheel of life assessment also reminds me of the blue zones
Mhm.
and the things that help people live to be over 100 years old. So I think that that assessment is great for all of us to implement into our life too. So yeah, let's jump into the financial wellness. You had shared a lot of great things that when we're doing all, of course, at our certain levels, all of the things on the spokes,
Mhm.
how that can lend to our financial wellness and to our careers and our work life overall. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I felt like earlier in my career, more money would solve everything. And and then as it's just interesting, it's like the bills grow, everything grows in proportion. And I felt like the universe sometimes just knew I had extra money. And so my car would break down or whatever that was. And I really appreciate right now when you look at financial wellness, there's some incredible podcasts for, say, the College Investor podcast, Planet Money, Afford Anything is a kind of a real estate investment. So there's all sorts of new podcasts for the type of financial wellness or something that sparks that you can do. I love compounding the spokes. You can do while you're doing some exercise or getting out in nature and listening and becoming more fluent in some of the really creative things that people are doing to create short and long-term financial wellness, and also expanding that network. In addition, there are some phenomenal apps. I use Credit Karma as an example. Mint is another. But there's some tremendous apps that start to look at your spending and analyzing that and then sharing, here's where you're over, under, really being intentional, especially, I don't know about you, but all the subscriptions that end up coming up and suddenly you're like, oh, that renewed. And I didn't even know I had it in the first place. And so as you sort of look at all aspects, there are phenomenal AI apps that are free that you can use to help with financial wellness. You can go into your Android or Apple app stores and just look for finance, and you'll start to see lots of apps coming up. And I would just say, look at ones that are interesting to you in an area that you're trying to improve your financial health. And then also listening to some phenomenal podcasts on ways either to invest, to save, to live on less. And the financial literacy is something, like I said, I felt like early career, I just need more money and everything solved. And what I've found now is it's more about smart money and really being intentional, deliberate, learning how to optimize your employer's benefit programs is another great way to stimulate financial wellness. And so as you look at that spoke, especially being in HR, it's like, compensation is a big thing. What I've learned is I've seen people who have tremendous incomes who have no real money, and people who have lower incomes that just are going to Disneyland and doing all the things in their dreams. And it's not all on credit. It's actually done through very smart ways that they're looking at money and learning a lot. So it's just one of those areas that I think that happens to us. Bills come in, we get money in, money out, and we're just kind of managing it that way. But there's so much greatness to come in with those apps and podcasts. I highly recommend that you create some time to start increasing your financial fluency, and that will pay dividend at any income level.
All right, I think it goes back to that calendar, Laura, and adding maybe 5 minutes every day just to learn to get learn your financial literacy on, and see the ways that you can compound by the end of the year. And I think maybe we can go back to what you were sharing in the beginning, that accountability piece, and talking. Money seems to be things that people don't want to talk about, but maybe when you do open up and you talk to other people, maybe get a mentor, that can also help you. And maybe the mentors could be the podcasters that you're listening to, or the authors of the books that you're reading, but to really open up that conversation around financial wellness too. So I'm so glad that you shared some of your insights on that as well. Also, just wanted to say FB in the chat is saying hello from the Philippines. We have another person who has said great insight. Thank you for sharing it with us. We do just want to go over to the audience and ask you all a question. We'd love to hear from you. You can feel free to drop it in the chat, but let us know, what steps are you taking on your wellness journey in 2024? Again, we'd love to hear it, help spark some ideas around the rest of us too that are tuning in from Armenia to the Philippines. So we'd love to hear from you. So please do drop it in the chat. So Laura, I know you and I could probably have like talent show part 1, 2, and 3, because I'm a wellness and podcast nerd and I love reading books. So I could go down the rabbit hole on any one of these topics with you, frankly. And I look forward to listening back to this so I couldn't take notes while we were talking, but I'd love to go back and take the notes and apply it to my own life as well. But I know we've been talking a lot about what we can do individually. What's our individual strategy? But community and relationships, those were some things on the Wheel of Life assessment. So what's some advice that we can all take away today about how we can share our wellness vision and journey with each other to inspire more impact and really support the communities that we're all a part of?
Well, I feel like, you can be the spark. I've been at companies who had people who were on their journey around addiction, and they decided to create a group in the business and be vocal. They were very vulnerable and very clear. They wanted to create this group around addiction and support others struggling with themselves or family members. And they created a community that also goes back to the beginning when I said wellness, like the thing you're working on, when you gather other people that are working on the same thing, mental health. Another leader who had shared her challenges with obsessive compulsive disorder and being having bipolar disease. And so just sort of looking at these vulnerability, some people are not at that point that they even want to tiptoe into that, but PTSD for veterans, et cetera. So when you gather a community of like-minded people working on the same thing, it can be incredibly powerful. So encourage, people to connect with one another, and you do that through conversation. I'm thinking about this. I'm wondering about that. Could you give me some advice here? Those sorts of things can be very unifying, and that helps move people forward in a much more long-term way rather than just a resolution.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love here at TTEC, our communities, the employee resource groups that we have. Upcoming is Black History Month, and we'll be celebrating with our Champions of Color employee resource group. Actually, we'll have a guest on the talent show coming up next. But I've learned so much, especially from our TTEC Minds group around neurodivergent community, and I really appreciate that anyone at TTEC can say, hey, I'd like to help our global team and launch an upcoming employee resource group. So thank you for sharing that. And it can be the informal groups too, like you're mentioning earlier with our virtual gardening club or getting people to go walk during meetings as well. Just wanted to go over to the audience real quick. Donna, hello there. TTEC's wellness programs are amazing. Currently enrolled in the Thrive program and love our employee resource groups. And FB has shared that she's committed to taking 30 minutes of getting up and taking a walk and breathing fresh air, and then get back to my desk with a fresh perspective. and to her color-coded closet as well. She mentioned that earlier. So, yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much. Laura, we could talk all day. I know you've got a lot of people and culture things going on, so we appreciate your time joining us to kick off our 5th season of the Talent Show. Thank you so much. We know that you'll be on the Talking Off the Clock podcast coming up for an after hours conversation. So everyone stay tuned for that. More with Laura Butler coming up next week. So thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you. Appreciate the conversation and wishing everyone a well and healthy 2024.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura. And everyone, we're not done yet. We've just got a few more jobs to share with you. If you have liked what you've heard today, please do jump on to ttecjobs.com. That is where you can come and join our talent community, poke around, learn more about our culture, about our commitment to diversity, some of the things that we were talking about today. But let's also go over to Ahmedabad, India, and share that we are recruiting for a fraud representative. I don't know about you all, but there is so much fraud going on in the world, from banking to job scams. And so this is a fantastic opportunity to really make an impact and a difference with our wonderful team in Ahmedabad, who, by the way, have an upcoming wellness walk here in February. So we look forward to hearing more about the success of that event and all the contributions that they'll be making to the groups that they're walking for. We also are launching in Honduras. So, of course, we need team leads to help lead our team. So, please check out if you're in Honduras or know anybody in Honduras, we'd love for them to take a look at TTEC and get to know more about us. So, we are hiring for a team lead there. And then we also have a trainer because, of course, once we get people, we need to train them to deliver amazing customer experiences. So, there's a lot more to come in Honduras. Stay tuned for that. These are just a few of our many jobs that we have around the globe. So again, head over to ttecjobs.com and see what's happening in your neck of the woods. That's a wrap on today's show, everyone. Thank you so much to Laura Butler for sharing her championing of our wellness journey as we kick off 2024. I'm excited to hear how this talk today has helped you throughout the year. And maybe it's something you can tune back into if you need a little extra inspo along the way. And of course, we'll have our Talking Off the Clock podcast here coming up next week for a little bit more of a deeper dive into some of the things that we were talking about today. And you can check us out over on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And again, a very special thank you to you. We're here for you. And so we're glad that you're joining us, either tuning in for the first time or joining back again. If you've liked today's episode, well, sharing is caring, right? So we'd ask for you to share it out with your network, tag a friend who you think could use some of the advice from today's show. As I said earlier, we'll be back again in 2 weeks to celebrate Black History Month with our champions of color. In the meantime, everyone, I wish you the best on your wellness journey ahead. Thanks for tuning in.